Hello, Dazzle. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me today. I'm glad that you were here. Today, I am going to be talking about the video game Still Wakes the Deep, and there will be spoilers. So, if you haven't played the game yet and you are planning to, then you should come back to this later. Still Wakes the Deep is a first person narrative horror game developed by the Chinese Room, a studio that is renowned for its storytelling prowess and atmospheric design. The game is set on an oil rig in the North Sea during a ferocious storm, where the player, an oil rig worker named Kaz McCleary, must navigate through a series of harrowing events to survive. At its core, Still Wakes the Deep is not just a horror game, but a profound exploration of human vulnerability, isolation, and the interplay between nature and technology. The game's philosophical underpinnings offer a rich tapestry for analysis, blending existential themes with ecological and ethical considerations. The oil rig setting is not just a backdrop, but a critical element that underscores the ecological themes of the game. An oil rig, as a symbol of industrial progress and human ambition, stands in stark contrast to the harsh, untamed environment of the North Sea. This juxtaposition highlights the tension between human endeavors and the natural world. The rig's isolation amplifies the sense of vulnerability and the precariousness of human control over nature. The towering structure, designed to extract resources from the depths of the ocean, becomes a claustrophobic trap when the supernatural elements begin to emerge. The oil rig becomes a metaphor for human existence. The relentless storm and the ensuing disaster force Kaz McCleary into a confrontation with his own vulnerability and the inherent unpredictability of life. The rig, initially a symbol of human ingenuity and control over nature, transforms into a nightmarish landscape where survival becomes the primary concern. The game invites players to reflect on the fragility of human life and the thin veneer of security provided by technology. Despite the sophisticated machinery and safety protocols, the rig's descent into chaos underscores the limitations of human control. And this mirrors existentialist philosophy, particularly the ideas of Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus, who emphasized the inherent absurdity of life and the individual's struggle to find meaning in an indifferent universe. Still Wakes the Deep also delves into the philosophical dichotomy between nature and technology. The oil rig represents humanity's attempt to harness and exploit natural resources for progress and prosperity. However, the storm and the subsequent disaster serve as a stark reminder of nature's power and unpredictability. The game suggests that no matter how advanced our technology becomes, it remains vulnerable to the forces of nature. This theme resonates with the ideas of environmental philosophers like Martin Heidegger, who critiqued the modern technological worldview for its tendency to objectify and dominate nature. Heidegger argued for a more harmonious relationship with the natural world, one that acknowledges our dependence on it and respects its intrinsic value. Still Wakes the Deep echoes this sentiment by highlighting the catastrophic consequences of technological hubris and the need for a more sustainable and respectful approach to our interaction with nature. At the heart of Still Wakes the Deep is a critique of human hubris, the belief that nature can be controlled and exploited without repercussions. The game's narrative subtly suggests that the oil rig's crew, and by extension humanity, is paying the price for overreaching. The eerie, supernatural occurrences that plague the rig can be seen as manifestations of nature's retribution. The player, embodying an ordinary oil rig worker, must navigate this haunted environment, confronting the consequences of collective human actions. The ecological monstrosity in Still Wakes the Deep is both literal and metaphorical. The monstrous entities that haunt the rig are not just physical threats, but also symbolize the larger, often invisible consequences of environmental degradation. These entities can be interpreted as the embodiment of the ocean's anger or the manifestation of the toxic byproducts of industrial activities. This duality enhances the psychological horror of the game as players grapple with the idea that the true horror lies not in the supernatural, but in the very real impact of humanity's ecological footprint. When considering the creatures that are presented in the Still Wakes the Deep, it is important to remember that the origin is from within the Earth itself. Upon pushing too far, humanity has unleashed an ecological monstrosity that now rages to protect itself and the Earth. The appearance of the ecological monstrosity is that of the oil that was being drilled. In defiling the Earth, not only has humanity unleashed an ecological monstrosity, they have also become monsters themselves. The game's horror elements are deeply intertwined with themes of environmental anxiety. The constant sense of dread and the unknown lurking in the depths serve as a metaphor for the unpredictable and often catastrophic consequences of environmental exploitation. The player's journey through the rig, fraught with danger and uncertainty, mirrors the broader human journey through a world increasingly affected by climate change and ecological disruption. The psychological horror thus becomes a powerful tool for eliciting reflection on our relationship with the environment. Still Wakes the Deep does more than just depict an ecological monstrosity. It forces players to confront it. By placing players in a vulnerable position, the game encourages empathy and a deeper understanding of the stakes involved in environmental exploitation. The narrative suggests that survival requires not just physical endurance, but also a reckoning with the consequences of human actions. This confrontation with ecological monstrosities serves as a call to action, urging players to reflect on their own role in the environmental crisis and to consider more sustainable ways of living. At the end of the game, Kaz comes to believe that he must sacrifice himself to save humanity from the ecological monstrosity that has been unleashed. And this suggests that humanity must give something back to nature to maintain a balance with it. But this choice goes much deeper than just appeasing nature. The decision to sacrifice oneself to save others carries profound moral implications. It touches on the ethical principle of utilitarianism, where actions are judged based on their outcomes, specifically the greatest good for the greatest number. From this perspective, Kaz's sacrifice could be seen as morally justified if it ensures the survival of many. However, this utilitarian approach can clash with deontological ethics, which emphasize the inherent value of each individual and the moral duty to oneself. According to the deontological principle, sacrificing oneself might be viewed as morally problematic because it violates the duty to preserve one's own life. Moreover, the game's context presents a scenario where the sacrifice does not guarantee the survival of others, complicating the moral calculus. The uncertainty and unpredictability of the rig's environment mean that the protagonist's sacrifice could be in vain, raising questions about the futility and morality of a choice. This ambiguity forces players to grapple with the limits of their moral responsibility and the potential for unintended consequences. Still Wakes the Deep is a narrative horror game set on an oil rig in the North Sea during a ferocious storm. It explores human vulnerability, isolation, and the interplay between nature and technology. With philosophical underpinning, it critiques human hubris, the dichotomy between nature and technology, and the ethical implications of sacrifice. Well, that's about it for my rambling today. Thanks for coming and spending some time with me. If you like my rambling, then click on that like button. It really does help. And until we talk again, you guys be sure to take care of yourselves. Bye!